Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy Vert. We are going to be looking at Jack Awakening today. I'm going to show you guys her costume, what her Awakened Blackstar looks like, alongside the rest of her Awakening kit. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Let's get into it.
Light it up.
All right, guys, so this is going to be her Awakening costume. I'm assuming it's going to come with release. This is called the Drakania costume. And as you can see, this is the Hexblood form of it. If we go ahead and swap, this is going to be the Dragon Blood form. So you can see the big dragon horn there. Overall, I think the costume looks pretty good. And we can also show it without the cape as well. If you guys want to see what that looks like real quick. This is going to be the costume right here without the cape. I'm a big fan of the cape personally. I think if I was to use this costume, I'd use it with it. But just in case you guys wanted to see it there. Now we'll go ahead and take off put the cape back on, of course. And then this is what the Awakened Blackstar is going to look like. Now keep in mind the glow on this is because it's at pen. So that's why it's giving off that red aura or the red glow. This is what the dragon horn looks like. And then we'll go ahead and swap. And then you can see this is what the spear is going to look like. Overall, I think they did a very good job with the Blackstar Awakening. And it looks absolutely phenomenal on this class. All right, guys, now that we've got the important things out of the way, aka fashion, let's go over the skills. Starting off, we have Burning Resolve. This is going to be your E buff. It's going to be 30 AP, 30% crit, 15% accuracy, 10% attack speed. Very offensive E buff with Drac Awakening kit. Impale is going to be your grab. Yes, you heard that right. She does have a grab. In this first part, I'm just going to do the grab without the flow connected to it. So you can see she just picks him up really fast. It's a quick grab, goes straight into a float. Now it is on a 15-second cooldown, but I'm going to show you guys what it looks like when you use the flow right afterwards. So this is going to be the grab, and all I'm going to do is hold LMB after the grab. As you can see, if you hold the full duration, you will do a down smash into a second float. Now that can be useful if your opponent's at low health and you want them on the ground for a second time, but just be careful because that combo does cap them instantly and they will get up after that second float. This is just going to be your auto attack, nothing to look at here. Legacy, this is going to be the first skill we're actually going to look at. It is your swap back and forth between Hexblood and Dragon Blood. Now outside of Legacy, using Shift E and space, you can also swap by using different hotkeys. And then there's certain abilities that just pull you between both forms. And we'll go ahead and talk about that in a second. Let me show you guys what Legacy looks like real quick. It's going to be Shift E. Nice little dragon wing comes out. And now we're in the Lance, aka Dragon Horn form. Dragon Blood, whatever you want to call it. Now I'll show you an example of spacebar. We'll do a little backdash into spacebar. Gives you that frontal and swaps you right there. So that's two different ways to use Legacy to swap back and forth. All right, next up we're going to cover Fate Beckons. There's just going to be a little burst of mobility. It does have a knockback, but I don't think you're going to be using it as a CC too often. More of just a movement filler. It's going to look like this. Nice little hop, little stab animation, looking pretty clean. Next up is going to be Flow Dragonflight. Now, if you watched the Awakening trailer, you know exactly what this ability looks like, but I'm going to show it off a little bit more. There's a couple ways to use it. You can use it straight up just standing and not use any evasive maneuvers. It's going to look like this. A little bit of a startup animation and some decent distance, but I'm going to go back and show you guys what it looks like with the evasive maneuvers. So this is going to be the same ability, but this time I'm going to use evasive maneuvers, aka I'm just going to hit A and then D while flying, and we're starting in roughly the same spot. I just want to show you guys the distance difference. So that right there, I believe, is the max distance you can get out of it. We went almost twice as far, but you saw our stamina bar was burned completely in half. Now keep in mind, on the global server, I only have about 2,000 stamina. I know on live servers it's closer to like 2,700 all the way up to 3,100 stamina. So it won't be as impactful to your stamina bar as it is here, but it's still a big chunk of stamina, and for good reason. I mean, that's an incredible distance to travel. All right, guys, now we're going to take a look at the Hexblood skills. That's going to be the first set of skills here in red. We're not going to go over every single animation, but I will quickly cover all the skills and then kind of highlight the ones that I find important. So first one is going to be tip of the scale. This one we are going to take a little bit of a deeper look at because it is your accuracy buff, and it also has a stiff and a knockdown on it. So potentially it could be used to extend combos, or it could be used as a pre-buff. And you can see right here, just a quick shift LMB is going to activate your 9% accuracy rate. Now, if you want to use the whole animation, it's going to look like this. Pretty good. I mean, it is a bit longer, so that's why I say it could be a combo extender, not necessarily an opening at all. All right, moving on to the next skill. This is going to be Savage Decree. This does have a float on it. Could be used for a re-CC again. Outside of that, it has a pain and a burn. We're not going to go over this one. Moving on, we have the flow. Now, you can flow Concealed Claw off of Savage Decree. It can also be used, I believe, off Spiteful Soul if you just hold R&B. On to the next skill, Shift R&B is going to be Spiteful Soul. This is a decent bit of damage. More so, I think it's going to be used to PvE because it does give HP back. Next up is going to be Aerial Burst and the Flow Obliterate. Now, this is a passive flow, so that means it already is included with Aerial Burst. Aerial Burst is going to be a very important skill for damage, and if you want, you could get the core for it, which gives this ability a stiff and a knockdown. Now, Aerial Burst is going to look like this. You can see part 1 and part 2 of the attack. Very, very useful for PvP and PvE, and it's just overall huge damage. Next up, we have Sundering Roar. This is going to be a stun. Now, there is a super armor core for this, but I don't think it's as good as Aerial Burst or a skill that we're going to talk about shortly. But Sundering Roar is going to look like this. It's going to be a stun right in front of you. Now, that beginning animation you can actually cancel just by doing a dash, and then you got the stun right there. So it could be used as a quick catch. It is unprotected unless you choose the core, but the ability overall, very nice and visually appealing. All right, next up is going to be Tectonic Slam. This is going to be your forward E, and this is one of my favorite skills in the entire kit. Personally, when I was PvPing, doing some duels, I was using the Tectonic Slam core, and it's going to give this ability super armor. So it's a little bit of mobility. Then you have the super armor on top of it. It has minus 9% evasion for 10 seconds, and it's a float. It's going to look like this. Really, really quick. It can be used in conjunction with your other movement ability, and then it can also be used as a swap from Dragon Blood. So you can see right there, I went from Dragon Blood into Hexblood. Next up is going to be Crackling Flame. This is kind of just filler. Personally, I don't think it's that great, and the numbers on it are kind of meh. After that, we have Storm Piercer. Storm Piercer, this is a important skill for a CC extension. It does apply a knockdown as well as that pain and burn again. It's going to look like this. Right there, that last spear attack is the actual knockdown. It's relatively quick for being a 3-part attack, and I think it's going to be very, very useful in PvP. Next up, we have Storm Maul. This is going to be your second protected ability in Hexblood. We have Aerial Burst being the first, the Storm Maul being the second. And this, again, is going to be movement. It's an iframe into a super armor. No CC attached for PvP. It does have a float, though, for PvE. It's going to look like this. As you can see, a nice iframe into super armor. Very clean and connects smoothly with your other movement abilities. All right, guys, now we're going to head into the Dragon Blood abilities, starting with Tip of the Scale. This is going to be Shift LMB. It's unprotected, but it does have a knockdown on it, so it can be used for combo extension. That second part right there after the leap is the knockdown. Moving on, we have Savage Decree. This is SLMB. Gonna be a super armor and minus DT debuff. Quick little animation there, very nice. Spiteful Soul. This is gonna be shift R&B, and then you have a flow called Cloud Strife. If you just hold R&B, that's gonna look like this. Again, very, very good looking animation. A little bit of a slower ability, but very good damage for PvE and PvP. Next up, Storm Piercer. Just going to be a quick ability. A little stun. I don't know how useful that'll be for anything, but it looks cool. Next up, we have Sundering Roar. Sundering Roar and Flow Extinction are two of the coolest abilities I think this class has. Sundering Roar is going to look like this. Super armor into frontal. And then we got the flow right there that also has frontal. Something kind of odd or tricky about this is the flow is on a 10-second cooldown, while Sundering is on a 20. So if you hotbar Extinction, you'll be able to use this ability twice as often as Sundering. So something just to keep in mind when you're trying out the class. All right, next up we have Doombringer. In my opinion, Doombringer is one of your most important skills with Drak Awakening. It can cancel out of Dragon Flight. It could swap you from Hexblood into Dragon Blood. And it's also another one of your abilities that has an iframe on it. Now the tricky part is the startup is super armor and the end is super armor. So the ability can be punished pretty heavily as it does lock you in animation. So that's just something to be aware of. But overall, very cool ability and very clean animation. All right, next up we have Crackling Flame. I talked about Crackling Flame very briefly with Hexblood as it doesn't really do much for you. However, in Dragon Blood, it's actually going to give you a knockdown on the first hit. So if you do that right there, that's a knockdown. It's a clean animation and can be used to sneak in a knockdown, maybe in a small scale situation. Next up, we have Tectonic Slam. This is going to be SE, and it's going to have super armor on it with no CC. The nice thing about Tectonic Slam is just as Doombringer takes you from Hexblood into Dragon Blood, as does this skill. So you can see there Tectonic Slam giving you the swap into Dragon Blood from Hexblood, and it's a super armor. You can also use Tectonic Slam to cancel into Sundering Roar as well. All right, guys, for the last part of the Awakened skill overview, we're just going to go over the cores. The first one is going to be on tip of the scale. It's going to give it forward guard. Now, a question I got asked a lot on stream was, does this apply to both stances? The answer, sadly, is no. It's only going to apply to Hexblood and not to Dragon Blood. Next up, we have Spiteful Soul. It adds a stiffness, which I don't think would be too useful, maybe in niche situations. Next up, Sundering Roar Super Armor. This I could find useful because it does have a CC on it, therefore giving you a protected CC on Sundering. Next up, we have Savage Decree. Again, a forward guard. In my opinion, not really worth going over, but if you're interested, you could take a look when it comes out. Next up, we have Tectonic Slam. This, in my opinion, is tied for Aerial Burst in terms of being the most useful core. I was PvPing a lot in the battle arena, and I was swapping back and forth between these. Tectonic Slam has a float on it, and it's also your minus evasion buff or debuff. So it's something that I found incredibly useful for quick catches in order to start a combo. Last but not least, we have Aerial Burst. This is going to give Aerial Burst a stiffness and a knockdown in PvP. So as an already protected nuke, this can be very, very strong. I see this being used maybe a lot for small scale scenarios or even something like Arena of Solar. Now, something unique to this kit is that it has two different 100%s. They're both on Tectonic Slam, but it just depends on what stance you're in for which 100 you're going to use. Now, the 200% is going to be tied to Doombringer, and we saw this in the Awakening trailer at the end. Very, very cool animation. In terms of its viability, I'll let you guys be the judge. All right, now I'm going to show you guys what Tectonic Slam in Hexblood looks like. This is going to be the 100% in 3, 2, 1. Oh my god. All right, guys, we're going to take a look at the second 100%. This is going to be in the Dragon Blood form, and it's going to be your Tectonic Slam. That's going to be down E. And we will go ahead and showcase that in 3, 2, 1. So as you can see, this one actually has a little bit of mobility to it. Very similar startup animation. But unlike the Hex Blood, it does have that movement. So it could be used to catch someone off guard. Or if you line it up properly, you know, a little sneak attack. Overall, the 100% for this class don't seem too viable in my opinion. And I think it'll most likely be an absorb class, at least for PvP. So there's the 200%. In my opinion, visually, it's amazing. But realistically, I don't think it's going to be used too often. The damage I tested was rather low. And the animation just screams, grab me. So in terms of viability, I don't know if it'll be used ever. Unfortunately, we're not going to be Suck Zerk 2.0. All right, guys, that's going to do it for the video. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks so much for tuning in and supporting. We are going to be doing a lot more Awakened Drak content in the upcoming future. We're going to do some PvE guides, some PvP guides, combos, movement, etc. You name it. But before that, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below or come check out the stream and ask me there. Thanks again for the support, guys. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.